Can you say hard hats, folks? Hard hats, lunch pails, steel-toe boots.
Anything short of a championship this year is a failure.
Look at this boomer right here.
You've just got so much talent here.
Somebody said we need to apologize for Jaylen.
Can I close it, John? What are we apologizing for? What did we say? What did we do?
I know Jackson's busy. He can't keep it running. It's in Miami for the Patriots, who stink. But that's okay, because the Celtics took a W tonight. Nick, I'm going to just keep doing this. Because there's a rumor.
No.
There's a rumor, Nick, that you don't like this song.
Jackson must have known because he cut it early.
No, Jackson's busy. He's got bigger fish to fry right now, and that's fine. But if it was the perfect Sunday for me, the song would still be going because you don't.
I hear
like
it.
But guess what? I have a little bit of say in what goes on this show, and there's
too much.
A little birdie's telling me that the song's going nowhere. The song's going nowhere. There's a chance the intro might change. You might hear some different quotes, but the song's not going to change. And the Celtics losing record isn't going to change either, Nick, because they pulled this one off by the skin of their teeth tonight, this evening, this afternoon. In the East Coast, it's dark. In the West Coast, it's bright. We got to figure out the daylight savings time situation here on the East Coast. But regardless, Celtics pull off a 107-105 win over the Minnesota Timberwolves. Used to be the Timber Puppies. Shout out Sherrod if he was on the show tonight. We would tip the hard hat to Sherrod. By the way, the hard hat's on tonight for
Why is this a hard hat game? I mean, I realize they fought through almost losing that lead.
Well, I'll be honest. Like, there was a chance I wasn't going to put it on, obviously, if that shot went down by Reed. But why is it a hard hat game? I'll tell you why. Because it was a hard fought game, and this is the Timberwolves are considered a top 3, top 4 team in the West. You would say. I mean, a lot of people feel that way, and the Celtics beat them. I mean, they had a double-digit lead, and it dwindled down there in the later stages of the game. But you still got to put on the hard hat, strap on the steel-toe boots, and get the lunch pail out to beat this Timberwolves team. They're a physical team, Nick, and the Celtics were a little bit small tonight. You know, a lot of their big guys were out in this one, and shout out Tillman Sr. for stepping up in a situation where we haven't seen him recently. And by the way, shout out Nick Gelso joining the show. Nick, a lot of people know Nick as sort of the cult hero of the show, but he's a lot more than that. And me and Nick go way back to the probably the
OG baby
phone call days, calling into the show and all that stuff. Shout out Duke and the rest of the crew that were on.
Yeah, Poulin and Duke. Yeah.
But we're gonna have a good show tonight. We got Bobby and Noah at the game. They're gonna be checking in with us hopefully sooner than later. I told Bobby, I was like, Bobby, I cannot do an hour with Gelso solo. Get your ass on this show. So
I think what the youngins forget is that our show, when we were hosting this show, was about 6 minutes long. Remember?
As it should have been. As it absolutely should have been. And as it might be tonight. If things go off the rails, Nick, there's an end stream button right here in the top right. If you start going off on Russell and Kuzi and Hondo, like, I can guarantee you the end stream is gonna come out. No disrespect to those guys, but like, there's a time and a place. Like, call up Patrick Maxwell, and you guys can do a couple hours on those guys, and that would be a great podcast. I personally, I can't do it.
All I gotta say is I wish Luke Cornett speedy recovery. But I am very quite relieved that we don't have to deal with Bobby jumping in for Cornett for 15 minutes. But here's the thing, Jimmy. How much you want to make a bet? The over-under, if Bobby leads with Grant Williams is out for the season.
It's probably going to be mentioned. The over.
It's definitely going to be mentioned. Are you kidding me? I woke up to that text. This morning. I got that. They're like,
that's tough.
News.
That's tough about Grant, and thoughts and prayers with Grant. I'm sure Grant's a hardworking guy. We know that about Grant. He has to be, because
hardworking at pissing everybody off.
He's tough to if you're Grant, you got to work for everything you get. So he's going to work for this recovery and hope that he has a full recovery, and we'll see him back on the court sooner than later. That aside, we have bigger fish to fry today, Nick. Celtics with a nice win tonight on the home court. Had to protect home. This is a big one. It literally came down to the last shot. Edwards passed up his three, gave it a Reed, who had a clean look at it, and it just missed. I mean, we're probably a lot less animated and happy right now than we would be had that shot go down. But that's life. And tonight the Celtics moved to 14-3. They're going to keep rolling here, and the Wolves, they're in a little bit of a different spot. 8-8 have obviously, undergone a pretty big transition with their team, and a ballsy trade and transition right now that they're going through. Having traded Karl Anthony Towns to the Knicks, bringing back Randall amongst, there's obviously some other little pieces in and out of that trade there, but those are the big main ones. And I think the Timberwolves are kind of dealing with it. They're working through some of those changes. And I mean, to be honest, Randall and Edwards for the most of this game. Dillingham, the guy off the bench for Minnesota, Dilly. I like Dilly. Remember that ad read, Nick? But
that goes back.
I'm Rob Dillingham. I'm trying to figure out how to make some money off that. But guy off the bench that hit some big shots. But the Celtics, they've got too much. They've got too much.
For most teams power in the league.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's just too much going on with them. I mean, it was Brown. Let's get into it. So we had one of the hot. We got vintage Jaylen Brown tonight, Nick. And
yes, we did.
I think I said this a few weeks ago when and Joe Mazzulla, he's changed up the rotate. He's changed up the minutes and everything. And now Tatum's playing, full first quarters and things like that. But before that, I mean, Jaylen Brown was your first quarter guy. We're talking about past seasons here. He was the guy that would come out without batting an eye. He'd give you 15 points in the first quarter. And then that would be it for Jaylen Brown for a bit. Right. And that would play into it goes into the running joke that we had that,
the brownie.
we never talk about Jaylen Brown because whatever, XYZ. But he was the first quarter guy. It would be a little bit different if he was doing that regularly in the fourth quarter. I'm not to say that he hasn't hit up big shots in the fourth, but point I'm trying to make is he's your first quarter guy. And tonight that was the case again. Comes out 5 3-pointers.
Firing.
5 threes. As one is meant to do on a team that focuses on the 3-point shot as much as the Celtics do, and set the tone for them. And again, it's one of those things where it's like my ball. We went back. Is it my ball? Is it your ball? Things when it comes to Tatum and Brown. And quiet first for Tatum, loud first for Brown, Nick. Just give me your thoughts on the way this game. Give me your thoughts on two things: the game as a whole. And then let's get into the Jaylen Brown start and the way we'll ease into things a little bit. Since I talked for the first 10 minutes here, I think you got 4 words.
No, that's all right. It was all good, Jimmy. You set me up fine. I mean, it was a good win in what would be what Xanis would call.
By the way, Nick.
Oh baby,
yeah.
Go to the store. What's the promo code now? Banner 19.
We'll get it up there in a bit. We'll
baby.
get it up there a bit. Black Friday's coming up too. We're gonna have some
Black Friday.
Announcements.
Yep. Anyway, like you were saying, I mean, it was a good game. There was some frustrating. For me, it's always frustrating, and I think for most fans, when the threes aren't going down. And when you see Jaylen start off firing and hitting, there's always that side of you that, of course, you're like, holy shit. But there's that side of you that's like, oh, no, is this what this is going to be now? And a 3-point marathon. And it was. Points in the paint for Minnesota kept them close throughout. Rudy Gobert's rebounding. I mean, the dude was like Wilt Chamberlain out there. And if I don't know if Scal is on his payroll or what, but if I heard Scal one more time, defend Rudy Gobert. All the way around, Minnesota shows again why they're always competitive against Boston. And I wanted to make one comment. I thought so. I was watching the game with my mom. I'm here in Pennsylvania, Thanksgiving, enjoying, get ready for the Thanksgiving holiday. And she says to me, Nick, Jason seems to step back an awful lot before he shoots. Now, my 74-year-old mother pointed that out.
Who's a great woman, by the way. Shout out, Mrs. Gelso.
Thank you. And if she knew I told her age, she'd kill me.
Yeah,
and I think she might be 73. She only looks 60. But anyway, if my mother
by the way, she looks way
55.
Younger.
Yeah, maybe.
Way younger.
So that's where I get it from. But anyway, when your mom is making those type statements, you know that it's going on too long. And so maybe I'm being a little bit boomer-rageous where I'm saying, okay, this was a good win. In the end, there were some really frustrating aspects. On the positive side, D White, again, Derrick White, is he ever not there when you need him? And can't bitch about Jrue because he usually is, but today was not his best game. The 3-point drought that happened in Washington on Friday, if that happened tonight, this would have been a blowout, obviously, for Minnesota. That team, they're tough, man. Anthony Edwards gets on my fucking nerves like there's no tomorrow, but, man, he can ball. That dude can ball out. And you saw it over and over where their philosophy is getting in the paint and getting to the line. The Celtics, again, I don't want to see in the last 2 minutes, I don't care if he's sixth man of the year. I don't care if his specialty is long distance, full court shots. I don't want Pritchard or anyone shooting contested threes from the logo in the last minute of the game. So some frustrating old habits start to creep back up. Joe not calling a timeout there in the end. Had that three gone down by Minnesota down at the end of this game, we'd be having a much different discussion in regards to some of the Celtics shortcomings.
Yeah, I mean
this game.
Sure. I mean there's a lot to unpack. I mean, obviously the Celtics jumping out to that double-digit lead in the second and really expanding it. I'm sorry, in the third and expanding it there as the third quarter went on. Speaks to the type of team they are. And then, but the same time, Nick, you can't look at the Timberwolves record as being 8-8 and be like, oh, they're a 500 team. We know the type of team Minnesota is. A lot of Celtics fans thought that they were going to be the team to see the Celtics in the NBA Finals last year, right? I mean, that was a very possible matchup. And then, Dallas went on their run, and at that point, the only people who thought the Celtics weren't going to win were the basketball brains who were too
so
brainy for their own, too basketball brainy for their own good. But I think if Minnesota makes it to those NBA Finals, you might have a more interesting NBA Finals. I still think the Celtics were the better team and would have done what they needed to do. But all that to say, the Timberwolves are just they're no slouch. So you got to give them credit. Anthony Edwards and Bobby's going to come on here and talk to you guys about, I know this already, Anthony Edwards' 3-point shooting. That's the one thing about Edwards' game that he's really improved upon, at least to this point in the year. And that's going to take Edwards into the next level player. Obviously, he can't do it himself. He has to have guys around him who are going to be able to hit shots. And if the 3-point is the way to go, then he's going to need help because, Randall's not really a 3-point shooter, 1 for 4 tonight. Jaden McDaniels for them 2 for 6. And then, Dante DiVincenzo 3 for 6. So 3 for 6. He had a good night. But Edwards is the guy, Edwards is the guy. He's going to be the guy putting up shots for them. He's their 3-point shooter. He's their everything shooter. And he's going to be a superstar in the league for a long time to come. And the way it started out, it felt like Tatum, I don't know, was ready to just kind of like let Brown do the work or let the other guys carry
Jimmy,
tonight.
It was exactly what you said in the first, it was that feeling where Brown is hitting. So Jason, I guess rightfully so, lets him go about his business and hit until he stops hitting. Right. But was the kind of, one to the other, taking turns being, and I think that's just what this team is, bro. They're never going to play off each other the way we want them to, but Who cares? They're both so fucking good. Excuse my mouth.
Wow.
That's
Okay.
2 F-bombs in the first
Yeah.
12 minutes.
Let's take it down a notch. It's only 6 o'clock. If this was like a 10 p.m. start
This
time
is
to the
after
game,
dark.
yeah, this isn't after dark. This is prime time. Like people are sitting down for dinner. Like it could be on at the dinner table. So let's try to keep the F words out of it. You can say
that is true.
You can say a couple things here and there, but let's be chill. But Tatum did come around. We're looking at the Tatum stat line now, and he was able to sort of get back into things. Not an efficient night. 8 rebounds, 4 assists, definitely on the lower end of where he's been this year. He's definitely been somebody who, and John kind of predicted this to begin the year, was going to take a more all-around approach to his game. A LeBron-esque. Not going to call him LeBron, not calling Tatum LeBron, right? Nobody is. And this is I'm
well,
LeBron.
wait a minute.
I'm a LeBron guy. You're not.
Wait a minute. There are a lot of green teamers out there right now that are mad at you for not saying he's better than LeBron right now in his career. We're talking about Celtics fans here, Jimmy. You can't say anything.
Well, I mean, I'm not. This isn't a knock on Tatum, but LeBron,
I know that, but they'll find it.
No, LeBron is literally, arguably the best player of all time. So like, it's not a slight at anybody. I mean, it's LeBron or MJ, and I'm on the team LeBron. That's a different story. But regardless, he was able to become effective in this game. He needs to be aggressive when the shot's not going down. And I thought in the fourth quarter, did a little bit more of that, not a ton, but he did get the and one in a situation where they really needed him to. Missed the free throw, which doesn't help, but just the fact that he was a little bit more aggressive in that moment speaks to what he needs to be. But in this fourth quarter was Brown and this was White. I mean, Derrick White in this one, you talk about guys that, and we've mentioned him a few, we mention him every show, but we mentioned it specifically recently that he's just so damn good, man. Like he's always been underrated, but it's like he's almost still underrated, but because he's like so much better than I think, like he's still somehow underrated, even though everyone acknowledges how good he is. He's still underrated. And 19 points tonight. But it was when he scored them. It was the block. It was the steals. It was the transition. The transition shots. And it was just everything rattled. You needed when you needed it with Derrick White. And it feels like, and it just feels like he's the type of guy. And this isn't breaking news, but like he's gonna have an off night. Everyone's gonna have an off night, and whatever. Not everything's gonna go down, but it just feels like the type of player where you just feel safe with this guy. Like he's just gonna do the right thing, even if it doesn't go the way you want. You feel good about him you feel good when he's he has to be on the court. There's never going to be a situation late in the game where Derrick White is not on the court. And that's where we're at now. And we've been there for a while, but that's just the type of a player he is, where he does everything right in some capacity.
The Celtics are not the champ. I would go so far. I don't know that they're a championship team without Derrick White. They may be a contending team, but that dude just makes too many timely shots, too many defensive plays. He's too good of a teammate. He never complains. He's always in the right spot at the right time. And you're right. When he's on the floor, there's an opportunity for the ball to go in clutch moments. Sometimes I feel, I don't want to say it, but there are times where I feel better, or I wish the ball in clutch situations was in D. White's hands over some of the people Joe chooses sometimes.
What'd you say? What about?
Oh man, he was not paying attention.
My dogs, dude, because I'm.
He my dog me already.
I'm faxing my dogs you because
I know what you're doing. He's trying to fix his Wi-Fi. He wants to get out of
my internet's not
right
great.
now.
Is my internet?
You got weak signal, bro. Yeah. Well, you look good now, so don't move. But yeah, it was a little Brockton going on there. A little Joe Sway action.
Usually the chat will tell me if my internet's trash, but
They have been.
Jackson's.
Bro.
Oh, they have been. Shit.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, I don't know. Well,
basically what I was saying was,
we're at right
I
now.
don't know that the Celtics are the championship team locked shoe-in that they are without Derrick White. You know, I mean, he's in all the right spots at the right time. He hits the big shots. And there are times where at the end of games, Jimmy, I'm asking myself, why isn't Joe going to Derrick White and continually going for the Tatum ISO at the top of the key? Right. So, I mean, Derrick White, I think he's almost irreplaceable on this team.
He is. I mean, well, we don't have to worry about that because Derrick White's going nowhere. I mean, yeah, he's not going nowhere. Knock on wood. You know, obviously health aside.
Such a high character guy.
High character guy has you know, he's never said anything wrong because you can barely get the guy
barely talks
to say anything. So certainly he's never going to speak out of line, right? We know that about him. But it's just the way he plays. It's just the fact that he has to be considered one of the best two-way players in the NBA. A year ago, Nick, he didn't crack an ESPN 100, like top 100 players mark. That's how underrated this guy is. And it goes back to the fact that he is soft-spoken. He's a guy that's not looking to, be, in the limelight. He just wants to go out there, play his game. And that's probably why he wasn't a, super crazy recruited, college player. Everything he's done has been under the radar. Now it's impossible.
How many guys? Yeah, because he's a gold medalist. He's a champion, and I think he's going to be an all-star this year. How many people like that we know that are piped in or that are, in the know media grabbed the scouting report when that trade happened? I mean, I know I did. I'm like, who the hell is Derrick White? And what does Brad know that we don't? And clearly a lot. Because though he had that rough first season, he's been everything to this team since. And I mean, to me, he's irreplaceable. He's the one guy on the team that, short of Tatum and Brown, he's the one guy on the team that I just would hate to see, us have to part with, which hopefully we won't have to.
Right.
And all this being said, Jimmy, KP is still not even back yet.
KP's not here. And I got to say this about one more thing about Derrick White. Well, two more things. We'll answer this comment too. But the first thing is I was wrong about I did not think that the Celtics were going to be able to extend Derrick White in the offseason. I thought he was going to hold out. I thought he was going to try to cash as much as he could. And, that, I don't think that was a crazy thought, but I was wrong. He ended up coming to an agreement with the Celtics, and he's locked in.
Another thing, hometown discount. That's another thing. I mean, he got paid, but still, he could have gotten paid more elsewhere.
He got paid, but yeah, he went through his options, and the decision he made was the decision he made, and I'm sure the Celtics were thrilled about it because they locked up
Jimmy.
their guy.
Jimmy, look who just popped in. Check out who just popped.
Is that the real Aztec? I hope so.
That is Aztec Gino.
It is, yeah. It is the real Aztec. Dude.
So every time I don't want to bring up politics, but every time I see Trump dance, do you know the Trump dance? I think of Aztec friggin' Gino because he does the same dance every time.
Well, no, I think Trump does. I would say Trump does the Aztec dance, to be completely honest.
Yeah, that's right, because Aztec's been doing it a lot longer.
But if anyone's going to the TD Garden, Aztec Gino. I don't need to explain. Just picture the Aztec Indians and picture Gino time, and that's our guy, Aztec Gino. He's a staple in the TD Garden, and he's a fan of the Garden Report. He has been for quite some time. This was an Aztec Gino night, absolutely. Hopefully they got around to getting him on the jumbotron. Where was I going with that, Nick? Before Aztec,
let's just talk more about Aztec Gino.
Oh no, it was Derrick White. Somebody asked, "Where can I get the Derrick White beer?" Well, there is a Sam. A lot of people know this. Sam Adams Brewery. It's a local, Boston brewery and brewery. I feel like I'm not saying that correctly. They came out with a Derrick White beer. It's like a white ale or something. I don't know exactly what it is, and I don't work for Sam Adams, so I'm not gonna
It's the
push it
Derrick
too
White
much. But
ale.
you can get it at the Sam Adams Brewery. There's one right downtown Boston at the Faneuil Hall area. So if you're in the area, go check it out. I haven't tasted it yet. Might have to, Nick.
I'm not a beer drinker.
You're not. You're a martini drinker, though.
I'm not even Jimmy.
Infamously a martini drinker.
You'll be happy to know, Jimmy. Well, I don't know happy or what, but I'm no longer a martini drinker. I've had one martini in the last or maybe two martinis in the last 3 months.
Really?
Jimmy,
so what are
I'm
you?
barely a drinker.
What are you drinking instead?
I'm drinking wine instead, but not much. I mean, I'm not drinking nearly as much, bro. I mean, I haven't had to. This team is so good.
You look good. Nick, you look good. I gotta say, you're looking good on camera right now. I know that we're live right now.
Thank you.
Should probably maybe wait on that. But
you're not one to. You're like Larry Bird. You're not one to hand out compliments, bro. So I appreciate that.
No, yeah. Well, hey, listen. If it's working for you, then keep it working. Keep doing it.
You know it. And it's not Appletinis, David. I'm sorry, buddy. An Appletini? Are you kidding?
But yeah, the Derrick White beer, whatever, is alive and well. Hopefully, he's not. I don't think. Put it this way: I don't think he's drinking much of it because he looks sharp out there. He's not. He's not showing up hungover. That's for sure. Not that beer would do that. I can't tell you that it does. But Nick, what else do you want to hit on this game? I mean, I don't want to get negative yet. I don't want to even get negative, but I feel like we will at some point.
I don't think there's much to get negative about.
Well, you mentioned Holiday. I do want to touch on Holiday at some point. Even though I'm a huge Holiday guy, but
so am I.
Going back to Tatum Brown, we touched on. I thought Horford tonight did what he could. A Horford game that's not going to jump out on you on the stat sheet. But certainly a guy that held his own out there. Again, the Celtics.
Horford was great. Horford hit some timely threes too. He was good.
Horford did Horford things. That's what he does. I mean, 2 for 9 from 3, so not efficient, but he did it a couple.
after I just said he hit some timely threes, 2 for 9.
He had 2 threes, so whatever time those occurred would, I guess, make them timely.
They were timely.
But the Celtics, listen, we know this about them. We knew this going in. They're going to be undersized going into the year. They're even more so now. I think their second, third, fourth, and fifth center are out of this game. I mean, everybody's out of this game as far as the big mans go. Shout out to the X-Man Tillman, because this is a guy that, I mean, his role recently has basically been like practice guy for Porzingis. Like, hey, we're gonna send Porzingis to practice with the main guys, and also we're gonna send Tillman so that he can defend Porzingis. And we want to make sure that everybody knows what this is ahead of time so that no one's thinking that we just demoted Tillman. That's kind of where he's been at. So you got to give him credit. And again, this is a stat line that's not going to jump out to anybody, nor should it. But he went in there and he gave them minutes, and he did what he needed to do. And that's kind of what this center position is all about right now, Nick. And that's why I don't want to talk about it too long. I don't want to get hung up on getting exploited or I don't want to get hung up on the Celtics getting exploited the 5 position, because it's not going to last forever. What I do want to get hung up on, Nick, is bringing on Noa Dalzell, who is joining us from the TD Garden. She's in between pressers right now. Noah, are you with us? And I can't hear. Can you hear, Nick?
I cannot.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
There she is.
It was just a good old-fashioned mute. Thanks for having me.
The mute button is undefeated. It will always. I don't care where technology goes. I know it's AI and everything, but there's always going to be people getting got by the mute button. That's undefeated.
I know.
So, Noah, latest victim. Thank you for joining us, though. I know you're going to get back to it. Give us what are you hot on right now? What is standing out to you about the way this one went down, the way it ended, the way it started, whatever stands out? You were there for Joe, I imagine. So hit us with it.
Yeah. I think they keep finding ways to win. That's the big bottom line here. Like just watching this team, night in and night out, there's been a lot of bad quarters, a lot of moments of the ball movement's not what you'd like. Maybe the defensive intensity isn't quite there. But they're still finding a way to win. They're 14-3, the second best, record in the league. And this is one of those teams that is, the Timberwolves, they're 8-8 right now, so they're not who they were last year, but they're a tough matchup. When they were fully loaded, Rudy Gobert was doing a hell of a job in the paint, and they just find a way. And so that's the main thing. I think Derrick White was huge. I don't know if you guys talked about him already, but he made some big plays.
Never heard of him.
Just and then Jaylen, you just love to see Jaylen find a rhythm, because I don't know if people realize, but he was shooting 28% from three going into tonight. Really some tough stretches for him, and so just to see him go 7-for-9 and just start off as hot as he did, that was really encouraging. I'm not worried about his 3-point shooting. He's always pretty consistent, hovering around that 33, 34%. But it was good to see him kind of find a good rhythm here tonight.
Indeed. We were talking about Derrick White. We were talking about a few things. So one, we talked about vintage Jaylen Brown coming off to that like hot start that we've known Jaylen Brown to do in like previous season, not so much this year, but in previous seasons, Jaylen Brown was like Mr. First Quarter.
Yeah.
And to get that tonight was kind of a blast from the past. I know that he kind of came back down to earth, obviously, but it's kind of they were so one-dimensional for about 3.5 quarters tonight when it came to the 3-point shot, Noah. And obviously, hitting those threes to start the game kind of puts you in that mode, but are they too one-dimensional? Are they getting too far to the wrong side? And I know they won tonight, and I know that they field goal percentage was exactly the same overall, and the difference probably was the 3-point shot, but it came down to one missed. It came down to the final. It just came down to Reed's missed 3. Are they swaying too far into the abyss of the 3-point shot? Because it was comically one-sided for like 3.5 quarters tonight.
I don't think so. I wasn't laughing because of your question. It was just I honed in on the hard hat, and I just realized like I never really had thought about the fact that you wear it all the time. So
I don't wear it all the time. Well, I don't wear it all the time.
After good wins, what's the scoop with it?
Yeah,
it's
like very important that you don't. It's very important that you get this right so that we don't want to give people the wrong idea. So prior to this year, it was only worn during the playoffs after a win.
Okay.
After a win. But since we started selling them, we want people to like feel like they want people to get more. We don't want people to buy them and feel like they can't wear them for like 6 months. So
yeah.
Now the whole thing is you can wear them after a good win, after a hard fought win, not after any win, but after a win where you feel like they needed to do something, they needed to dig deep, they needed to show up. And I feel like when you're playing a team like the Timberwolves, regardless of the lead you had or the lead you ended up with, this is a hard team to beat. And I know they're 8-8, and I know they've got things going on, but this is a team where you feel like you could see them again down the road. So this is
last year. Both of those games last year were overtime wins.
Oh,
they
were
like
unreal.
The Anthony Edwards starting 5 dynamic was a little bit of a play.
No, we need to get you a hard hat. We need to get you a hard hat. And
get me a hard hat, yeah.
We sell white. We actually have white ones too. There's a limited supply of the white ones, so I think I might toss you a white one before they get sold out. But you need it's only right. Like you're part of the family. I'm
still catching
now.
up on the lore, but that was helpful.
You're part of the family. You're gonna be here hopefully for a bit. You need to have a hard hat, so we're gonna get you a white one. I'll have it sent to you. And anybody watching, we're gonna have a big Black Friday jump off coming up this week. Stay tuned. We've got some items that are gonna be for sale at a good discount. Lowest of the year coming up. Lowest of the year, as Black Friday should be. We're gonna call it Green Friday. Actually, I've just thought about that right now. We're gonna call it Green Friday. A lot of people wouldn't think of that, but that's what you get here.
But on your point about the offensive diversity, I really don't think it's a problem. First of all, tonight was one of those games where they were missing a lot of layups. I don't know how much of it is Rudy Gobert. I do think that he's a big part of it. But the paint touches were actually not going well. So it wasn't like they weren't looking for them, but they just happened to be more efficient from 3. And I don't think that against the average team, that's going to be the case. The other thing there is when KP comes back, and I think we're literally like a week or 2 away. I think we're so close.
Come on,
again, not sourced.
Give us a game. When's
Yeah,
he coming back?
I really think it's coming up. I think it's coming up. It's just a gut feeling. I started getting on this train at the Brooklyn Nets game because he just had the vibe of somebody that was just moments away from returning to the NBA court. And obviously he's not there yet, but today before the game he was running up and down the court, taking threes, like really sprinting. He's scrimmaging. So in any case, I think he's coming back soon, and he's going to be the thing that diversifies their offense. That was the whole MO last year. Part of why they were so historically great last year during the regular season was because he provided them a release valve. He was the the most efficient post player for the first half of the season. So I think any feeling we might have right now of like there's a lot of drive and kick, a lot of 3-pointers, he's going to come in and mix that up. And I also don't think there's anything wrong with the current structure. But that's going to be a big part of it.
It's going to be massive. And that's why I don't even really want to spend much time on like the center position and like what's going wrong and like the exploits that are going on. I mean, Bobby actually sent a really interesting stat in our group text not too long ago about the percentage of time that centers guard opposing teams guards. And sure enough, it was Kada, it was Cornette. Those two guys are right near the top. And whether or not that's because it's two things. I think one is opposing teams are obviously going to do everything they can to get their guys switched onto those players. And also I think the Celtics, Mazzulla is just fine with allowing that to happen because they're going to take their chances. They're going to allow, their other 4 guys to sort of commit, and whatever happens, and they'll beat you on the other end. So that's all going to change when Porzingis comes back. Noah said it's going to be next game. So that's
no, I didn't say that. But any day now, every time I check the injury report, I'm waiting for it to be Porzingis questionable. I'm waiting.
We all know
let me just it's
going to be like 2 p.m. on like a whatever day afternoon. We're going to be scrolling Twitter and boom, there it is. Porzingis, like questionable or probable or whatever it's going to be.
No, active. It will say Dalzell, : report. It will say Porzingis, report per Noa Dalzell.
Every one of these shows now a new rumor is spread now that I have to deal with later on.
Yes.
Now, the one thing that is also to think about, you look at Gobert today. He had as many offensive rebounds as the entire Celtics team had. And when Porzingis comes back, that's, yes, he plays more high post, but he also has to be guarded to the perimeter, and it pulls that big man out of the paint where, just today it was, Porzingis couldn't every rebound he was grabbing. Why are you laughing, Jimmy?
I'm just laughing at my own
comments
that I put up there. Yeah.
Oh, of course, he's laughing at his own joke.
Nothing to do with you. I'm not even listening.
He's laughing at his own shit. This guy. Nothing changes. Nothing changes. But that's another thing to look forward to with Porzingis. I just keep going like this every game, because he's coming back. He is coming back. According to Noah, he'll be back tomorrow or Wednesday.
It's going to be soon. It's going to be soon. Report soon. Sooner than later. Can we
soon? Source gut feeling. Source gut feeling.
Gut feeling.
Source Porzingis' vibe.
Verified by gut feeling.
Gut feeling. Porzingis is back sooner than later. We can just say sooner than later, and no one's going to know what that means, but it's still a report.
I will say though, Jimmy, that stat that you mentioned about how the Celtics bigs have been hunted this season and how they're defending more than any post players in the league. I think it's also a reality that there's not a lot to exploit when you look at the Celtics defenders. Like, you can't go with their guard that's a bad defender. You have Jrue Holiday and Derrick White there. You can't go with their wings. So it's like you kind of got to find something. And with a lot of these teams, go with Damian Lillard or whichever guy is your weak point in the starting lineup. And for them, it's going to always be the post player, especially when it's one of those bench guys. Even if it's Al, they're going on Al quite a bit too. Even though Al is a better defender than Numish Kada is. So it's just a matter, it's almost like a reflection of like how good the rest of their team is that they have to find something to go at. And, it's all about mismatches in the NBA. And this team just makes it really hard for people. So unfortunately for Kada, when he comes in, it's like he's going to be defending 100% of the time because that's what they're going to be attacking.
Noah, can we I don't want to say it's negative, but can I ask you something that's maybe not like, and we're 40 minutes in, I feel like we can stray to the other side for a second.
Negative.
One guy that I'm I'm the biggest Holiday guy out there. Feels like he's a little off right now. And they mentioned it on the broadcast, and we have eyes. We can all see it too. But, I mean, he had a tough stretch there in that fourth quarter. I think he airballed like maybe 2 threes, or at least definitely airballed one that I saw.
He definitely,
And was just
airball layup, I think, at one point.
Is there something going on with Holiday, or is it just chalk it up to, just a game that you sometimes have? Because this is the guy, let's not forget, what was he shooting from 3-point last? I mean, he was the best corner 3-point shooter in the
corners
league.
are like
And
65%.
I saw him miss 2 pretty badly late in this one.
Yeah. So my philosophy on shooting struggles is that I'm never going to make any conclusions from like a small sample, especially not one game. And this season,
you haven't met our friend Bobby then, because that's what he only does.
Oh, I've met our friend Bobby, and that's why I've solidified my philosophy after meeting Bobby. So
that's why we need you. Yeah, that's why you guys sit next to each other so you cancel each other out. Yeah,
exactly. So what is he shooting? He's shooting 49% from the field this season. He's shooting 37% from 3, which is solid. That's his career average. I do think his shooting from last season was a little bit above what we can expect from him in the coming years. Like he was on a crazy hot stretch, and it's one of those seasons when you look at a guy's career logs, like it's, you have outlier seasons in a positive direction, and I do think that Jrue Holiday had one of those last season. That being said, like he has such a big sample size of who he is as a shooter, who he is as a player, that I don't have any reason to think that a couple of air balls is indicative of anything besides the fact that that's just like how basketball works. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum both had like multiple air balls versus Washington DC. So I'm not gonna draw too much attention to it, but yeah, he hasn't had like the same hot shooting that they had last season. Al Horford's shooting like 50% from 3 or 47%. So it's just going to be a trade-off. Like certain guys are going to have it more than others. And Jrue has not been one of the guys that's been on fire this season, but he's still been consistent. It hasn't been like he's, super off. So I'm not worried about it.
All right. Thank you, Noah. We're going to jump to a couple ad reads, and then we're going to give you guys a little sound from Joe. Noah, if you want to stick around, great. If you have to get somewhere, that's fine too.
Okay, I'll come back in a little.
Yeah, come back in a little. I think Bobby's going to jump on soon. I know he was in there for the Jaylen Brown press conference. But before we get to Joe, we're going to tell you guys a little bit about our friends at Prize Picks. Nick, you're a Prize Picks guy. You've been a Prize Picks guy. This guy's rolling in Prize Picks. He is the Prize Pick. What is Prize Pick?
I'm the card today. I'm the Prize Pick.
Yeah, we're going to for sure. Yeah, we'll go with that. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Guys, it's the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia. If you happen, and by the way, we are countrywide. We are worldwide, Nick. A lot of people don't know that about us. We're not just a Massachusetts show. There are people watching in Florida, in California, Australia, the Philippines,
Italy.
I can't speak for those countries, but I can speak for California, Florida, and Georgia, and Texas. You guys are in
Australia, dude. We have a show that comes on after
it's the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy. So you pick a lineup and stay in play, even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. There's nothing worse than picking a player and then he goes out and then there's your whole day. It's ruined. So sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, Nick, who apparently hasn't been celebrating Taco Tuesday. The guy's down a lot of pounds right now, but for some of us, we're big Taco Tuesday guys. Each Tuesday,
and then Prize Picks I'm losing weight.
I might be saying that. Prize Picks discounts select player predictions up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. So let me make sure I get the money read here, guys. Download the app today and use the code CLNS Don't forget CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is downloading the app, using the code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. You already know, baby. So shout out Prize Picks. Secondly,
by the way, did anyone see my mother walk in the room? Like,
I didn't, but I
almost
wish you
came
did.
right
Call her
be-
back in. Call her back in. I
right
missed it.
behind me. No, she walked. She left. I'm going, Mom. I felt like I was in grade school again or high school. Mom, I'm on the show. I'm
You
on the
can't-
phone, Ma. What are you doing?
Well, Nick, like I can tell that you're in like I can see like so you have your blurred background, so we wouldn't have been able to notice. But I can tell you're in like, are you in like your childhood bedroom with like there's like the dresser behind you with like I think it's a mirror, like you know what I'm talking about? Like everybody's.
I'm in the
furniture.
spare bedroom. You know,
Yeah.
We sold my childhood home, but yeah, this is where I stay when I come home. It's
Shout
like a
out
bunk bed. A bunk bed.
Shout out childhood homes though. Those were the.
Man, right?
Dude, what was better
I
than
still
like
miss mine. I
being
can
in your
smell
ch-
mine.
Can you smell it? That probably says more
Yeah.
about your smell than anything.
Oh, it
but
smelled good. It smelled
the good,
good.
yeah, nothing beats a childhood. The good times, man. 80s, 90s. For you, with like what 50s? I don't even know, but like,
Oh, come on, dude. I'm Gen X, bro. I was born in 1978. Please.
nothing better than like rearranging your room and being like, yeah, check out my room, and like make everybody come and see it. It's just like you just moved your bed from one wall to the other. Anyways, let's get through Let's get through the second ad read here, and then we're gonna get into Joe. I got to talk about our good friends at Game Time. Game Time. Who? True story. My brother texted me today.
No.
He's like, hey, I'm with a couple of buddies. They're at like the Harp in Boston, right outside the Garden. He's like, they want to go to the game tonight. What's the company that you guys do? That you guys do promotion for? It's like Game Time, baby. It's like Game Time. I was like, yeah, if you go to Game Time, go to the Game Time app, download it, create your account, use the code CLNS, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. So what did they do? They did exactly that. They went to the game. They were at the game today. Unbelievable Celtics game versus Minnesota. And they didn't have tickets today going into the city. They just said, you know what? We'll figure it out when we get there. We'll find some tickets. We'll get a good price. And what did they do? They went to Game Time and they got $20 off because they hadn't purchased from Game Time before. So shout out to those buddies. Hopefully my brother was able to relay that information. But here we go. Talk about hype and atmosphere of watching basketball, like celebrity sightings, the sound from the court and the feel of the crowd. Share a memory from an NBA game you attended in the past, or talk about any games you're looking forward to, baby. That is exactly what it's like to be at a basketball game. There's difference, Nick, you can back me up on this. You've been to a lot of sporting events. When you go to a basketball game, it's more of like an event. You go to a football game, you go to a hockey game, even a baseball game. You're in a sea of people. You're just you're a number, right? Bring your binoculars if you're at half of these events. But you go to a basketball game, and let's say you do have the opportunity to get a loge seat or, whatever, not in the balcony. Balconies are great too, but if you get an opportunity to get a little bit lower, it's kind of an event. You know what I mean? Like
that's what's great about Game Time.
Who's who of people. The who's
Game
who
Time
of
is getting you those best last minute price on last minute tickets too.
That's
so like I get down there sometimes, close to the court, and everybody's going like, I'm making so much money. No, I got the best price and the discount.
Yeah. You just got to be good at it.
Time.
You got to be good at it. You got to know what you're doing. And when you buy from Game Time, they're proud to offer the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry, so you can rest assured they've got your back. Buy with confidence, knowing your purchase is covered by Game Time ticket coverage. You're not going to get screwed. No scalper is going to screw you. Game Time has got you. Lowest price guaranteed. Event cancellation protection, 24-hour returns guaranteed, job loss assurance, and on-time ticket delivery. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Nick, what time is it?
It's Game Time, baby.
It's Game Time, baby. And it's also time to hear Joe Mazzulla. I hope that Jackson is still paying attention because that was a 30-minute ad read. Jackson, if you were paying attention, hit us with the Mazzulla press conference. This is a huge
3-pointers in the first quarter. But what can you say about his defense today, especially on that last possession against Anthony Edwards?
Nothing.
Yeah, it's great to have a player of his caliber, take defense to another level and take matchups personally. When your best players are your best defenders, it kind of sets a tone, for your team and in your locker room defensively. So he takes pride in individual matchups. So I did a great job of that tonight.
They cut into that lead, and the kind of shots you guys were trying to force them into defensively. How did that kind of flow through the course of the game?
Yeah, it was good. We had 21-point third quarter. Obviously, Edwards got hot in the fourth. They got some a little bit 32 in the fourth, but I liked our defense throughout the game. Get 2 25-point quarters against a team like this means you're doing something well.
Kind of play Derrick White was kind of there to make it. I mean, what does it say about him? Just that Jaylen and Jason, everybody's capable of making plays, but he just keeps finding a way to make the big ones.
Yeah, no question. Sometimes it's handling, sometimes it's screening, sometimes it's defense, running that loose ball down or the outlet pass down. Just makes big time plays. So I think he has a tendency to do that, but I think that's really the identity of like our team. Those guys is where people can make different type of plays at different times, and you can just have that trust and reliability.
There you have it, Mr. Joe Mazzulla. Coach Joe, Nick, your guy.
I don't even know why we send reporters into this press conference.
Why are you typing in the chat and then posting your own chat?
I didn't post that. Jackson did.
You could just say it. Like, you are on the show right now. You don't need to you don't need to type it and then post it.
Well, I didn't post it. Jackson did.
Well, you didn't need to.
So why are you blaming me? I figured.
Save your thoughts.
I was so fucking
Jackson
bored
says
with
he
Mazzulla.
didn't post it. Jackson says he didn't post it. You posted it.
I don't know. Maybe then Bobby did. I don't know.
No, you posted it. You posted it. You thought Jackson wasn't going to.
Who's that guy? Who's that guy?
Yeah.
Jackson, note to self: next time I say you posted it, just fucking say you posted it. Bro.
Jackson, guys, this is going to be the last show you ever see Jackson on. Nick just fired him on air.
No, listen. Joe says absolutely nothing.
Yeah, we know.
Usual.
We just read it.
I mean, he says nothing, but who cares? I guess he didn't really have to say much of anything.
Yeah,
I have no reactions to Mazzulla today, as usual. I usually say we waste money sending reporters into Joe's because we could guess what he's going to say.
That's fair. I mean, I would agree that. I mean, I don't think we're spending money on them walking in there. They're already there. But yeah, like, for example, what's funny, and I don't want to get into it, but it doesn't stop with Joe. I mean, is there a good quote on the Celtics team? Is there really a good quote on the Celtics
Jimmy,
team?
wait a minute. Let's go back in time, right? Quickly. I'm not going to
time
go
out. No,
way
we
back.
have to. No. I'm gonna stop.
No, this is important.
This
is important. Now
really
stop
not.
it. Don't turn into Xanis. Don't tell me it's not.
Whatever you're gonna say is not important, but go.
Okay, thank you. People don't understand how frustrating it is for guys like John and you and me to watch to watch these guys say absolutely nothing when we had the absolute pleasure and blessing to be able to go in and get quote after quote after quote from Pierce and Doc and Garnett and Rondo's
Ray.
outfits.
And let's talk about Ray. Good
friggin'
transition.
Allen.
Let's talk
Thank
about Ray.
you. Thank you. Because he was the best quote out there.
Unbelievable transition by you. You didn't know it. You were going to go on.
Yes, I did. I knew exactly what you were doing.
Dumbest topic ever. But I want to talk about before Bobby comes on, because this is before Bobby's time. I think he was still in diapers when the Celtics won in 2008. And a big reason they won was Ray Allen. A lot of people, like Ray Allen, touchy subject because of the way things ended. I've always been a Ray Allen guy, even the way it did ended, because
me too.
I feel like it didn't end. And when I mean ended, the way it ended in Boston with Ray Allen, we all know the story, and I don't need to go back. Some people are just steadfast and they're just hard in their ways. It's like, dude, you left the team, you're out. I'm against you, and that's the end of it. I think that was one of the things Danny Ainge probably would like to have back. I think he should want to have back is the way he handled the Ray Allen situation because, and maybe Garnett and Pierce feel somewhat similar in that they didn't make Ray Allen feel like he was wanted back. And I felt like Ray Allen deserved that. And when the clock struck midnight and free agency opened up, the Celtics didn't call. And the Miami Heat did, and LeBron did. And at the end of the day, you go where you feel wanted. You know who the Celtics called at midnight? Jason Terry. And they got their guy. They got Jason Terry. But they didn't get Ray Allen because Ray Allen said, okay, I see where this is. I see what the deal is here. And prior to that, there was a whole Ray Allen versus Avery Bradley, and Ray Allen would go into a mini shooting slump, and everyone would be saying, bench Ray Allen, start Avery Bradley. It was a big to-do. And the way it ended is the way it ended. But let bygones be bygones. It's many, many years later, and we're seeing a lot of Ray Allen now, aren't we, Nick? We're seeing a lot of Ray Allen. We saw Ray Allen we saw Ray Allen at Kevin Garnett's jersey ceremony, retirement ceremony, which was a big one, right? I'm not making that up, right? He was there.
Nope. He was there.
We saw him at the banner night earlier this year with Pierce and KG.
We also saw him tonight. Wait a minute. We saw him at Game 5 of the NBA Finals.
We saw him at Game 5 of the NBA Finals. Ray Allen is around the vicinity. He is hanging out.
Why?
Well, I first of all, I think he deserves to be here whenever he wants to be here. And Nick, what I said a few years ago before the Celtics turned a corner is that where is the Celtic pride? Where are the former Celtic greats? We didn't see Pierce.
I agree.
We didn't see Garnett. We didn't see Ray. We didn't see Bird. We still haven't. We didn't see half these, we didn't see Rondo. We didn't see any of these guys. We didn't see Tony Allen because either they were still playing or they were out of the picture and there was no Celtic pride. And I don't want to go back to the dark days. There was a mini stretch where I was very, very down on this team. And those days are thankfully behind us. But now we're at a point now where Celtics organization is obviously in a good place. Garnett's been retired. Pierce has been retired, talking about their numbers. Ray Allen has not been retired. I'm not going to get into a should his number be retired argument tonight, but I think it's safe to say, and based on, I wasn't at the game tonight, but the broadcast showed a very, very, very warm welcome to Ray Allen, who was wearing the Celtics sweatshirt tonight. And he said in the broadcast, his son is now at Emerson College. I don't know if he's playing basketball. Maybe he is, or maybe he isn't. So he's in the city a lot more. Obviously, Ray's a Connecticut guy. And there is no negative to having Ray Allen around. And it was interesting that he was there. Good to catch up with him. I think Ray is a guy that you could definitely make the case if you want to someday, whether or not the jersey gets retired or not.
Retire the fucking jersey.
Regardless, it can't be understated how great of a player, an unbelievable NBA player Ray Allen was.
Clutch.
And they touched upon it very briefly in this one. But as good as Ray Allen was in an era that did not focus on the three-point shooting, and he was arguably the best three-point shooter of his era, him, and, you can toss a couple other guys out there, he would be that much better in this era, Nick. I mean, being allowed to shoot 15 three-pointers a game.
Encouraged
to take 15 three-pointers a game. You don't think Ray Allen would hold every three-point record in the history of basketball forever? I bet you that he would. And he had the quick shot, and he had the ability to get open. Now, and he touched upon it briefly. He had to do in clutch situations.
Shooting.
When in an era, and I feel like you now, in an era where when a three-pointer went down, it was a big deal.
It mattered. Yeah.
It was a big
deal.
Wait a second. We just got.
It was a dagger.
We just got 3 points on that shot.
Not two. What happened? Wait.
So
Did he go
most
to the
times
line?
we get 2, but we just got 3 on that one.
Was that a and one?
Yeah. Whoa. That's what Ray Allen did for you. And he had to work his ass off to do it. And he mentioned that tonight. But it's interesting because he's around a lot more. The narrative's changing. Time heals all wounds, Nick. The narrative's changing on Ray. Bygones be bygones. And even, when you see him with KG and Pierce and them laughing it up. And let me say this. Those guys can get past it, then you have there's no reason why you should have anything against Ray Allen. If those guys can, because those guys are actually invested emotionally, teammates, brothers, have been through hell and high water together and all in between and grow up together in some capacity. If those guys are good, then guess what? You're good too, because you're not in the same stratosphere as what they should feel.
And let me tell you something, and I'll quickly take you back and then bring you back real quick. If there's one guy,
don't go too far back on.
I'm not, but I think it's relevant and fans should know it.
Shout out Emerson College, by the way, Jackson.
Yeah, baby.
I'll shout out Emerson College because I went to Suffolk and we used to just go across the Boston Common and just bully the Emerson kids. But anyways, go on, Nick.
Anyway, I like both Suffolk and Emerson. I've done work at both.
Thank you for saying that. Go on.
Anyway, anybody who thinks, and I see some of it, Ray and some of the nonsense, still holding it against them. If anybody can attest to, I don't know if you want to say be forgiven or a prodigal son, it's the one guy who's been all over getting Ray's number retired, and that's Cedric Maxwell. I mean, that dude,
Bobby's
he could wait. He makes us wait all the time.
Here. Sorry, Bobby.
Me either. If Max can be accepted back in the fold after everything that happened and be here 40 years,
Bobby.
Ray Allen could get his number retired. So it's time. Let's do it. What's up, Bobby?
Nick, we're gonna circle back to Ray at the end of the show if we need to, but we got Bobby here. We need to give Bobby like a full history lesson on Ray Allen, so we'll do that.
He wasn't born yet.
Bobby's Bobby's like I said Bobby, I said you were in diapers when the Celtics won in 08. Is that far off?
Yeah, no, I was 10. So,
maybe under Ruse. All right, so under Ruse. Okay, so pretty
under
close.
Ruse.
Under Ruse.
Bobby,
no, I don't have a great memory of that year for sure. And Nick and I have talked a lot about 09.
Yeah.
Comparing it with this being 09. Sorry, I don't know if you've talked about that, Nick, since you've come on, because we were sort of weighing going into the season whether they'd get off to a 29-3 start or whatever that was, 27.
It has that same feeling.
I guess it's still in the cards here, and they've had those dominant moments, but they've also had some of the lulls, some of the malaise of going against the Wizards and other teams of the world early this year too. But more often than not, they've pulled it out, just like tonight.
Yeah.
That was Noah's take too, is that they're finding ways to win. I wouldn't say that they had to like really dig deep and find a way to win, but they did pull it off tonight. What was the big, Bobby, like what stands out to you about how they won tonight? Is there something or someone, we mentioned Jaylen Brown's hot start. We mentioned Derrick White coming up with some massive plays in the fourth quarter and Brown as well. Is there something that stood out to you in terms of like why they were able to figure out a way to win this one? Or was it what Minnesota did?
I think they controlled the game pretty well defensively, and I have some gripes about Minnesota to start this year. It doesn't look quite like the same Wolves team that pressured Boston throughout last year and almost obviously made the finals against them. So they got some stuff to figure out on that side. As for the Celtics, I liked what they did defensively in this game. There were moments early where they were letting the Wolves get to the rim at will, but especially tonight, I could see why they were allowing Minnesota to do that. They weren't letting Edwards get off any threes early. I think through 2.5 quarters, he only had three-point attempts. He's been averaging over 11 a game this year, and he's just been deadly from behind the arc. Naz Reid didn't make a three until the fourth quarter. So their defense out on the line was holding the Wolves at arm's length throughout much of this game.
Naz Reid got cucked by the new sixth man of the year candidate.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you just say cucked?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, he kind of did. Peyton Pritchard.
I mean,
He did.
I didn't even notice him for much of this game, and he certainly got a pretty dangerous look off at the end there that was a little too late. But
I know.
Right until the fourth, end of the fourth quarter, I feel like we saw the Celtics play some of their better defense of the year and obviously held a pretty prolific Wolves team to 105 in this one. So I like the defense in this one. They have problems protecting the rim, obviously, but they forced turnovers early, got that big lead, 9 points in the first quarter, built it up to 19 in the second half. And I just, I was texting you guys throughout this game, Jimmy. I never felt like Minnesota was going to complete a comeback. They kept pushing back, but every time the Celtics would answer with their shooting, with a big stop, and it just pulled it out when they needed to late. It did get a little scary over those last couple possessions there, but this is what they've done
Got
all
Harry.
year, and it's been pretty prolific.
It got hairy. Are we talking about a different game if Reed hits that shot, though, Bobby? I mean, I mentioned this to Noah off the top.
Last one?
Yeah, the very last shot of the game. I mean, obviously, we are. We're obviously talking.
Obviously,
like,
right? They would have lost.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but that's the difference. But what would we be saying? I guess is the way I want to ask that question. What would we be criticizing them about? And I don't want to start criticizing them for something that didn't happen, but it's a good exercise to have once in a while because it was very close to occurring. And I mentioned this to Noah off the top. Are they swaying too far in one direction where and somebody okay. Nick better come back. That coward Nick, he better not have just X'd himself off because Noah came on, because I will call him out. I'll bully him into coming back. But I mentioned this to Noah. There he is. Are you back, Nick?
No, I'm out, but
no, you're not. You're not leaving.
Oh, that's it, man. That's my stint. I'm now relieved from duty.
No, you're not relieved, dude. You're on the show. You start the show, you end the show. You're on the show for a little bit.
No,
you stay on for a little bit
longer. The 2 stars from Boston have to know.
Okay, how about this, Nick? You stay on for Nick. You stay on for a little bit longer. We're gonna go around the horn one more time, then you can graciously exit. All right, but I want to ask this to Bobby. I already asked this to Noah. Are they swinging too far in one direction? Because of what I said to Noah earlier is that it was like comically 3-point shot heavy for like 3.5 quarters tonight. And it changed a little bit. And obviously, the Celtics pulled this one off, but we might be having a different conversation. Or is it just like you can't even really dissect this game, or you really can't dissect this team because it's just live and die by the 3?
I think it's an interesting game offensively from Jaylen's standpoint, because he obviously got off to that scorching start and had big baskets throughout this game to pace the offense, but it ended up becoming a Jaylen game, right? You sit down Tatum 8 minutes in, which they haven't done often this year. I know John's talked about that switch up a lot. I asked Jaylen after the game what that's been like this year, and he said the biggest difference has been switching from being the tone set early to handing that off to Tatum, who I think for much of the season, I think we could all agree Tatum's been that tone setter offensively. But in a game like this, where Joe makes that decision, all right, we're going to play Brown the full first. We're going to sit Tatum down early, and Tatum got going at different points in this game, but it ends up being a Jaylen game. And there were heat checks throughout periodically, and then there was that big one at the end, and he said, I was going to shoot that. I made 4 straight. I was going to, shoot that no matter what there over Rudy, and that obviously allowed the Wolves to go back the other way and potentially win the game there. So it was a good Jaylen game, but I think the trade-off between Jason and Jaylen as your tone setter is that Tatum's going to be in that pass-first mindset more, and Jaylen's going to be in that shot-first mindset more. So for a lot of this game, the ball was going up out of Jaylen's hands, and much of it was great, right? But there were a few possessions here or there where he probably forced it, where he probably, left the rest of the guys just standing around. And Derrick said, too, after the game, he was our only offense there for a while. So we were just feeding him, and it ended up just becoming a pretty ISO-heavy game, 3-point heavy game, as you said there, too. But some offensive rebounds, some timely stops, I think, held them out through this one.
Facts, my dog.
You mentioned Derrick White, right, Bobby?
Yeah.
I'm gonna play a clip from Derrick White right now. Let's hear what he has to say. Hopefully this works.
Everybody know how fast you were.
I mean, JT threw it ahead, and at that point it's just first one to the ball, and so we had a discussion about who was the fastest on the team, and I had to put my case in there.
To just limit them offensively in those 2 frames?
I think it starts with an individual defense, but I think everybody was just really connected and flying around, just making multiple efforts, showing the crowd. I mean, you allow Ant to see a crowd, and Julius Randle and all the guys they have, or you allow them to see open space, they'll get to what they want to. So just showing a crowd and then flying around after that.
You guys are averaging over 53 attempts a game. Do you like that? Is that...
I like it when it goes in, and I like it when we win. So, yeah.
I love Derrick getting his one-liner at the podium.
That might be the quote of the year. I mean, that literally might be the quote of the year. So if anyone asks whether, I just asked the question to you guys, are the Celtics swaying too heavy in the 3-point, blah, 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 like I'm an idiot. I'm obviously an idiot because you like it when it goes in and you like it when they win. So what are we even talking about? We don't need to even be on that. We don't even need to have this show. I should just end it right now because it's that simple. Right, Nick? Nick, you're muted. Yeah, you're muted, as you probably should be. But
I said, all right, I'll see you. Have a great night. You're ending the show.
We're gonna end the show sooner than later, but I'll let you, Nick.
I'm kidding.
I will let you jump off if that's. I know. Mom's probably cooking some dinner up for you. Nick's,
Jimmy,
Nick's
I got
back
a busy
in Pennsylvania tonight. He's back home cooking for the holidays.
I got a busy day tomorrow too, Jimmy. We'll just leave it at that.
I do know you have a busy day. I know a little bit more than I should know, but hey, when you hit a certain age, you have busier days than other people do. And you gotta do what you gotta do.
Nick Gelso signing out from Pennsylvania. See you, Boston.
All right. Shout out to Nick, the big boss man. Thank you, Nick. How do I get us? There we go. I think this works. Let's do 3-way. Pause.
Yeah, I don't care about the threes, Jimmy. I think we're so far past that, and we've seen how they've weaponized it, the advantage it gives over the competition. For me, I look at this one, Noah, and I'm like, all right, this is what it looks like when it's a Jaylen game, more than a Tatum game. And
you're right.
It's going to be interesting here to me because they decide pretty early which way that's going to go.
Well, maybe this one, Bobby, when you say that,
he came out and hit 5 straight threes, Jimmy, so they had to give him the ball for the rest of the game.
That was a Jaylen.
He still took less shots. That
was Jaylen's start. It was a Jaylen start, but you will also admit that it did simmer down pretty significantly throughout the middle stages of the game, and a lot of things transpired in between.
He was just really reliable down the stretch, though. Like the hot start, I'm glad for him because he's just been off to start the season from 3, and so to just get that stretch, like that flow state where everything's going in, the place is going wild. You had to have that one heat check. Derrick White talked about it post game. Until he misses one, everybody was just going to find him. But what was more impressive to me was the fourth quarter. I think he had 9 in the fourth, but he had a couple of big baskets before the 3-pointer. Before that one really, and I don't want to say iced the game because obviously they almost lost, but that was a huge one with a minute to go. But he just knows how to find his spots in the fourth quarter and get to the basket and just get those easy ones. And it's been consistent throughout the last year or so in the playoffs last year. During the season, but that's what stood out to me most from his performance today was the defense down the stretch and on Anthony Edwards, and then also just how he was able to get his in the fourth, because the first quarter thing is like that happens to any one of those guys, and it's awesome to see and it was super fun to watch, but it's not that's not where it really counted for him tonight, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, and he does take 7 shots in the fourth compared to Tatum's 3 there, so it did end up being his closing effort there, and he shoots 4 or 7, but didn't love the last shot, the heave there from 3 that gave Minnesota that last chance. So
who's this?
Yeah, a great game for him. He finds his rhythm. Yeah, but
yeah, I thought we talk about. Yeah, I mean we're talking about 3-pointers versus 2-pointers. Brown, as many threes as he will take, and he took 10. Sorry, he didn't. How many did he take?
10. Yeah,
he took 10. He was 7 of 10. That's a great number, but he will still mix up those mid ranges more than I think Tatum will. Like, you know what I mean? Like he loves the little, step back 12, 15 footer, fade away. Like I love that about his game because you need to have that. You can't be a one-dimensional player. And I've said this about Brown many, many times. When he gets going, when he's in motion, he's like an unstoppable freight train that you do not want to be on the other side of, because that will end up on a poster. Back in 1997, when posters were still a thing that people put up on their walls, Jaylen Brown would be the giver on many of those posters. So I would love to see that more out of him. I feel like we haven't seen it a ton this year. Am I wrong to say that, like, the aggressiveness or just like the sheer like athleticism of these guys hasn't really been shining through? It is very, very much like shot heavy, which again, that is their strategy. But I still feel like there were times where we saw these guys unleash last year a lot more than we've kind of seen them, at least through this stage of the regular season.
Well, he was hurt to start the year, so I think that's part of it. And then I think they've, through his absence there at the beginning and Tatum's play, they've transitioned the offense through Tatum for much of this year. And as he said, I don't know if we'll get the cut here, but he said, Joe made a decision that we're going to play through Tatum early in these games, and he'll take that first quarter seed. And a lot of the times in the past, Jimmy, we talked about those stretches where Jaylen would score like 11 in the first, just have this massive start. Then he'd sit down, and we'd never see him again. So this year it's been a little different, where he's taking a seat early. He's going through some of those second units in the second quarter, playing that full stretch there. And Tatum's the one setting the tone in these games. That's been a pretty successful formula here. So the fact that they were able to flip that in this game, like we talked a lot, Noah, last game about like how Joe will never tell guys when they're starting or if they're going to play and stuff like that. Well, in this case, Brown and Tatum don't know who's sitting the start of the first quarter. It's mostly been Tatum Brown taking that seat. But tonight he plays the full stretch. Tatum comes back in the second and has to, reposition himself at the helm of that offense. And then late, it's Jaylen leading the offense in the fourth quarter. So Joe gave him a lot of credit, right? I asked him about that, and he said they both had to be flexible with that role. And I think that's been the story of those two guys over the last year and a half, is they've shared that mantle of running this team.
Yeah, and honestly, like, you can't take Jaylen out after he just hit 5 threes in 3 minutes. Like, and especially because nobody else had it going. I mean, Derrick White talked about that post game. It wasn't just the fact that he was hot; it was like nobody else had it. And so, I think that was an obvious. They made that move a couple of times this season where Jaylen just gets off to a really hot start, and so Joe just lets him kind of ride it. In my opinion, I think they both prefer to play the full first quarter. I don't think that they've outright said that, but I think that they both individually benefit from it when they do. And so it's one of those things where it's like once in a while, Jaylen's going to get the chance when he starts off like that. I do think the hip is more of a factor than maybe people are realizing, as far as maybe limiting his explosiveness or dunking or just potentially inhibiting him a little bit. I saw him stretching. I don't know if you saw Bobby, but he was stretching during the fourth quarter, like pretty aggressively. Like he was getting stretched out for what looked to be his hip flexor. And so it's clearly agitating him, the fact that he's, getting it treated mid-game like that. That's unusual for him. I haven't seen him do that much this season. And I think he's just going to push through it. I don't think it's a long-term concern. But if we're sensing that something is a little bit different in the way that he's attacking the rim or just his explosiveness, that's very likely the reason why. It's just that's been something that's been lingering a little bit for him.
All right, guys, before we get into the next one, I want to remind everybody about our third sponsor, great friend of the show. We're talking about Built, B-I-L-T, Built. Jackson, hit me with it. There you go, baby. Guys, PSA for anyone who rents. If you haven't heard of Built.
This makes me depressed.
Yeah, well, it should make you happy because these guys are here to save the day. If you haven't heard of Built, you're about to thank me. Earning points on rent is now a reality when you pay your rent through Built. You don't even have to check with your landlord. F the landlord. You don't even need to ask him to start earning points that you can use toward flights, hotels, stays, fitness classes, and even your next rent payment. That's right. Let your rent be your rent. How about that? A little like inception there, little rentception. Let me break it down for you. If you're a renter, I'd start taking advantage of Built if I were you. Here's the thing. We earn points on groceries, travel, and practically everything else we buy. But we should also be earning points on rent, one of our biggest monthly expenses. I know it is for me. I don't even want to tell you guys what I'm paying for it right now. It would blow your mind. It's embarrassing, actually, what I pay for rent. Built changed the game by letting renters earn high-value points on rent and around their neighborhood. There's no cost to join Built. And as remember, your own valuable points on rent and on your everyday spending. Built points can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, and even the ones you haven't heard of. There are over 500 airlines and 700,000, not 700, not 1,000, 700,000 hotels and properties around the world that you can redeem your Built points towards. Points can also be redeemed towards a future rent payment and unique experiences that only Built members can access. So if you're not earning points on rent, my question is to you, Noah, why? Why not? Why not? Why are you not earning points on your rent? Start earning points on rent. You're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/garden. That's JOINBILT.com/garden. Garden, Garden, for those of you who can't spell garden. Make sure to use. Hold on. Don't pull a me. Don't pull a me.
I was helping you. I was gonna help. No.
Make sure to use our URL so they know we sent you. Okay, guys. Don't go there unless you're gonna use our URL. That's joinbuilt.com/garden to start earning points on your rent payments today. Noah, yes, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say that I'm currently exploring the reward options as a renter myself. It's very rare that I can get influenced as an ad from advertisements, but I got influenced, Jimmy, so good job.
I consider myself a bit of an influencer. Yeah, you can find me on here, Instagram, TikTok. I'm a big built guy myself. Love it. I would recommend everybody checking it out because why wouldn't you? You're already don't let your landlord, pull one over on you. Those guys don't care about you. You got to care about yourself. They're not going to help you. You got to help yourself. So check out Built, see what they can do for you, and go from there. Anyways, back to the Celtics, the team that is now 14-3. Would you say it was a big win, Bobby? I got the hard hat on. Somebody asked me, why is my hard hat on? I feel like you beat a team that's supposed to be, a team that you might see in June. You got to toss the hard hat on for them. I mean, is this a quote unquote big win, regardless of the fact that they might be going through some things? And this also gives both of you an opportunity to tell me what you think about this Timberwolves team.
I'm gonna go no on big win. Then on your conference.
Last year would have been a big win.
Yeah, I'd say so. Then on your conference, you don't know if you're gonna see them later. I guess I'm interested in the Ant stuff as much as anyone, and he was flat for a lot of this game. You didn't see him talking as much. You saw them trying to play catch up for a lot of this game, but I think it's pretty emblematic of where they are. I think this game said a lot more about Minnesota and their ongoing struggles. Chris Finch had a lot of comments before the game. I know you were in there, Noah, about them getting down on themselves in spots and them getting attacked in different positions defensively, and he's really frustrated with the way they're playing defense to start this year. Obviously gave up droves of threes to start this game, so they're not the same team that almost made the finals a year ago. That trade, as much as I thought Randall fit in and made some key contributions throughout parts of this game, he's so different from Towns. You see it. He's not getting up as many threes. He's not spacing the floor. In fact, the floor looks pretty clogged up for them a lot of the time. And, they're still trying to figure out where to fit in Reed in that whole front court dynamic there. So it's a completely different dynamic. They obviously missed Mike Conley here in this one as well. So I'm not going to say big win, but it was impressive how they managed the game and built up a big lead and prevented themselves from losing it late. I thought it was a solid win, but I'm not going to go big win, Noah, especially since they almost lost.
I'm going big win because you won't. I'm putting a link in.
Noah.
No, I'm putting a link in.
You've ever said. When Bobby goes left, you go right. When Bobby goes up, you go down.
No, I'm just kidding. These are my cues from Al Horford. I just put a link in the chats. I don't know why I showed up 3 times, but Al celebrating at the end of this game, there was an extra feel to it. I think part of it is Anthony Edwards and his trash talking and the fact that both of their games last season were overtime wins, down to the wire, redocumented in documentaries as though they were playoff games. So yeah, I think it's a big win. I think you're playing as good a team as you've played so far. I mean, who else is there that they've played? They played the Cavs. That was a big win.
Knicks.
There was the Knicks, who were bad at the beginning of the season, figuring things out. The Bucks have been a below 500 team. So you got to find big wins where you can. This is as good as they've had so far.
Manufacture them, right?
Yeah, you're going to have more competitive stretches during the season, West Coast trips, whatnot. But just the Timberwolves of last season, they were one of the best teams all season long. They did have Gobert here. He does make things more difficult. There was a good feel to this game. But really the Anthony Edwards piece is, I think, the part that I find most exciting. There's just so much back and forth there. And Bobby, I thought you asked Tatum about Anthony Edwards, and I thought he was going to deflect and be like, I'm always out. All these games matter. But he kind of leaned in.
He had to, right? So Noah and I talked about this before the game. Noah and I talked about this before the game because obviously, Jimmy, Jason's talked about it. He He's not going to be super demonstrative out there. He's not going to be a guy who, in that spot is kind of going back and forth with guys who just, he said, I'm not KG, right? So you have that moment last year, and I know John loves this, that Minnesota beats Boston. I guess Tatum was saying a few things to Ant, and Ant after the game's like, best player in the league, F out of here, like blah, 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 just like going on this rant against Tatum after the game. And so like when there's that level of trash talk, and when he's basically saying, you're the best player in the league, yeah, right, how can you not respond to that? And I thought Tatum did it in a pretty Tatum way, as Noah mentioned there, in terms of saying, yeah, it's fun, we'll go back and forth, we were joking around a lot about on Team USA, but then he made a pretty pointed comment at the end about, my record's pretty good against Minnesota. And I love that. Like, I think that's as pointed as Tatum will get. Yeah. And I think it says a lot about today too. Like, you had all that to say, but we got you again.
It's also funny that Ant was talking trash during the Olympics so much, because it's like, how much trash can you talk to the team that just won the championship? But that's just his personality. So it was fun that Tatum shed a little bit of light on it. But I think if there's something that gave this game extra juice, it's that. And it's the fact that, like you said, Bobby, like the starting five thing, it made a documentary out of a regular season game. Like at the end of the day, that was just a regular season game. It is probably the most overhyped regular season game that I can remember, the one in Minnesota that the Wolves won in overtime. But it regardless of whether it warranted all that, it got all that attention, and therefore now it feels like this game had a little bit of extra juice to it. And it's just this most recent stretch has been so many bad teams that it was just fun to see, like a team that you might see in the playoffs.
We're going to check out what Tatum and Brown had to say about Mr. Anthony Edwards right now.
Like for you going up against Ant, there was obviously that game last year. They showed some of the stuff he said in the starting five there when you guys were kind of going back and forth in that game. So a little something extra going up against him, and what's kind of that relationship like going up against him on the court?
Yeah. We had two good games against each other last year, and obviously spent the summer with each other in the Olympics. I love Ant. He hell of a player, hell of a competitor. He talks a lot, and he had a lot to say this summer about, the games we played against him last year, and, getting excited to play against us this year. You enjoy playing against the other best players in the league. It's always fun and competitive.
Did you realize what he said until the documentary came out? Was that kind of a surprise to you when you saw it?
Good question, Bobby.
No, I saw it. And, we was talking a lot of shit to each other during the summer. I got a pretty good record against Minnesota in my career. That was the one time they beat us so far. But, it's fun. They're a really good team. They well coached. They got some talent over there. So I'm certain for the near future the games against those guys will be, really fun ones.
It's a part of the game. It's basketball. At the end of the day, it's nothing personal. Just come out and playing ball and being competitive. And is one of the more competitive guys in this league. He's one of the young superstars. He play both sides of the ball. He play hard. He want to win. So I got respect for it. Plus, we're from the same background. I get it. I know what type of cloth he cut from. So, to me, it's normal. I don't see nothing of it. And people should celebrate it more. I think, talking is a part of the game.
Do you talk back?
Me, personally, not really. I'm not a huge trash talker. If you get me going, I will. But, that's not really my game. I'm not a huge trash talker.
Okay. Hey. Good questions, Bobby. Way to get Tatum to address it a little bit. I thought they had good answers. I thought, like you said prior to the clip, Tatum. Listen. This is.
What'd you take from it, Jimmy? Are they on good terms, or is there a little something there?
I think they're on fine terms, but I don't think they're definitely not. They're definitely not best. I think Tatum feels like Tatum gravitates more towards some of the older guys in the league that look kind of almost like he's kind of looking up to guys. I don't know if he has the same relationship to the guys that are younger than him or on his level, but it almost feels like when I hear guys talk highly of Tatum, it's like Durant or Draymond or like those types of guys. But when it comes to the younger guys, I don't know if I hear that as much, and maybe that's just me, and maybe I just have missed some of the quotes. But they're two competitors. I mean, I thought Tatum got about as trash talky as he's gonna get by that mention about how he has a pretty good record against Minnesota. You're not gonna get him to go off, quote unquote, on anybody, whether it's and the same with Jaylen Brown. I mean, they let their playing do the talking, and like. That's an acquired taste, I think, as a, when you're an NBA consumer, I think it's very easy to get caught up and to fall in love with the drama, with the off court, with the shenanigans, with like the he said, she said, and that's like the NBA more than any other sport. It's like it's not just on the court stuff, it's what goes on, the relationships, the back and forth, the trash talk, the off season, the trade demands, the who wants to play with who doesn't like who. With this Celtics team, though,
you don't get that.
It's pretty much business, right? It's business.
But Edwards pulls it out of them, right? Like I said this to you before.
He tries as much as he can, but really, how much is he pulling out of them? I mean, that's the most you're gonna get. But Edwards is Edwards is the other end of the spectrum. Edwards is why what Edwards does off the court, and not just, I'm not trying to diminish what he does on the court. You have to be good too. But the fact that he is a vocal guy and the fact that he does like to speak his mind and say whatever comes off the cuff and blah, 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 that's why he's as popular as he is. And that's why he might draw more national attention. These guys, business as usual, all the way down from Tatum on down. Tatum, Brown, Holiday, Horford, White. Have I said a single player? I mean, keep going. Pritchard. I can keep going all the way down the line. Have I mentioned a single guy that's going to make the news for saying something out of line or poking the bear?
Jalen's
not really. I mean, only when he's provoked. Only when he's provoked, though, and he kind of said that. He's never going to be the guy that's going to start something.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I actually wrote about this for SB Nation recently about how like they just
maybe Luke. Luke might be the only guy that's going to start some shit.
No, but I will say on the Anthony Edwards thing, I think that people are going to get a little bit worn out by it if he doesn't win a championship in the next few years. Like a lot of these guys, their popularity is like when they're 22, 23, like Tatum when he was younger was much more popular league wide. And then you get a little bit older and it's like a couple years of losing, it starts to change people's relationship with you and how they view you. But I think it's fun. I think it's fun that there's a dynamic there. I don't think there's any real animosity there. Part of why I think Tatum has the friendships. Is that a new Luke Cornett pick? Or is that
I think that's it's either a new Luke pick or a new look.
Sorry, that threw me off.
Yeah, sorry.
But I think part of it is that when Jason Tatum was in the Olympics early on, he became friends. He was one of the youngest guys on that Olympic team, and he became friends with a lot of those older guys. So that's part of where that stems from. Whereas Jaylen wasn't on that team. I think Jaylen's had made friends in kind of more in different spheres. I don't want to psychoanalyze like the roots of their relationships because I've probably done that already too much, but that's a part of it is just his early career Olympic appearances, I think are the root of like the Draymond, the LeBron, like some of those relationships.
Yeah. And I love the dynamic, obviously, because they're the two most prolific American players, young stars who are going to be either one of them or both the face of this league for years to come. Maybe there's a rivalry, maybe there's championship battles to come between them. There almost was last year, but it's great. And you only got a subtle piece of it, Noah, but like I said to you before the game, when a guy says you're the best player in the league, yeah, right, that sort of stuff, like you can't just sit there and say nothing to that. So even just that little dig, the little response there, we have a pretty good record against Minnesota. That's all you need, right? It's not anything over the head. It's not anything crazy. It's not going to even draw a ton of headlines, I don't think. But it's a good response to all the stuff Ant said last year. And obviously they got them back here in Boston last year. And to start this year, get them back again. And like you mentioned, Noah, for all the hype, for all the fascination in him last year, and even the arguments that is he better than Tatum? They end up kind of crashing and burning in the West Finals there. And so he has to prove it now, right? Tatum's got that ring. He's pretty affirmed historically now. Now Edwards, though younger in his career and still pretty early on his trajectory, he faces those expectations now, right? He's the next man up in terms of like, all right, you're great, but when are you going to win?
There's a famous quote. I'm probably going to butcher it, but it basically goes, "A lion does not concern himself with the opinions of a sheep." And that's kind of, if you're the Celtics right now, if you're Tatum, if you're Brown, if you're anyone on the Celtics team, those guys are going to talk. They're trying to get to you. They're trying to find ways to beat you because to this point, or at least, moving forward this season, because the Celtics are the NBA champions, they haven't been able to, or they weren't able to last year. So you're going to get guys who are going to try to get under your skin or figure out ways to try to beat you. And if you're the Celtics, and I'm sure Missoula, I don't need to say this, I'm sure Missoula has said it 1,000 other better and different ways, because he's a guy that obviously cares about being mentally tough and all that stuff. I'm sure he has all that, ingrained in their minds that, this is what's going to happen when you're the defending NBA champions. You're going to be having a target on your back, and people are going to try to come after you any way they can, try to get under your skin, trying to, on the court, off the court, and you just need to play your game and stay true to who you are. So that's what the Celtics team is. Bobby thinks it was a weak win. He doesn't even care about it.
No, I think it was a solid win.
It was a solid win, but I understand. All right, what about this? What about this Timberwolves team? We're gonna wrap soon, guys. But are the Wolves a team that, if you're out west? I mean, if you're the Celtics, you only have to worry about them if they can take down everybody else. But can the Timberwolves, the new Timberwolves, obviously Cat is here in New York now, and Randall's in Minnesota, is this new Minnesota Timberwolves team, and they've got a bench. Dillingham came out to play tonight. Are they good enough to meet the Celtics again in June, or is it too early to tell?
They're good enough, but they're in a worse spot than a year ago. I do think they downgraded going from Towns to Randall. They're reliant on a guy like Dillingham, who's a rookie and hasn't played a ton when they're down a guy. And even if he performed well in here, but playoffs are a different story. Randall historically has struggled in the playoffs. Probably have to play Rudy a little more now. You can't slide Randall over to the 5. So I don't like how they look. I feel like it was a lot of Edwards, Randall, my turn, your turn. Obviously, the defense took a nosedive from a historic unit into league average, or even maybe a little below league average to start this year. They could figure it out, and they still have some good pieces here. And DiVincenzo's a guy, I think, who, if he can get going, helps that second unit and just their lineup versatility a little bit. But that was a tough call, Noah. And I was so conflicted at the time, too, because there's no saying if you wait, because they probably would have had to trade Towns in a year or so. And if you wait, do you get a guy like Randall back? Who knows? But you gave up a chance to run back a team that was on that doorstep of reaching the finals there. And they look like a worse team because of it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And honestly, I remember we did a reaction podcast like the night of the trade. I, for the life of me, cannot even remember what my initial take was, because I've wavered on it so much. But in hindsight, like at least what it looks like right now, this is the kind of thing where, you had a team of a core that really grew up together, that was drafted by the organization, and that in all honesty should have made the finals last year. Like they really should have, after defeating the Nuggets. Like I think we all thought that's where things were going. And so, yeah, this team doesn't look like that team. It's a little bit perplexing, because part of it is that the defensive dive, you could see it just watching them in live. Like you could see the defense was nothing like it was last year. And at the same time, it's like Karl Anthony Towns is not known as like an elite defender. So I don't know that so much of this is just that trade, versus sometimes like you have a really good year and you come back the next year, you're not quite the same. Mavericks are dealing with the same thing. They don't look like the team that made the finals either. So it's still so early in the season. They shouldn't have made it, but I mean, they made it, right?
Yeah,
so it's still so early that it's hard to conclusively say anything about any of these Western teams, but I do not feel scared for a finals matchup versus the Wolves based off what we're seeing right now. And honestly, I didn't last year either, but this is not a team right now that looks like they're a championship contender. There's too many things about them that stand out as just being not quite complete. And Rudy's a tough playoff player. Like it's tough to keep him out there defensively, offensively.
Even tonight.
He was good tonight, but we all know the limitations that come with him, despite the fact that he's a historic, 4-time defensive player of the year.
Yeah, just when he's out there late, you can pull him out to the perimeter. Those matchups. Exactly. Yeah, Brown missed that shot. That was over Rudy, right? The last Brown miss, I want to say. So, Yeah, he held up better than you would have expected here. And I know you pointed out like 20 rebounds. That kind of catches you by surprise there, too. They're better than anyone in the East. They're better than anyone in the East, Jimmy. Yeah.
The Cavs are better than the
well,
Wolves.
The East right now, that's a whole Cavs.
I think, it's close. I think the Wolves would have a better chance of beating you in a series than the Cavs. I'm not sure.
I'm so green goggles right now. I'm like, nobody could beat the Celtics. Honestly, like the Warriors are the one team.
I still feel like nobody.
The Warriors are the one team where I'm like, 2022, even though it's a different team now,
and they're starting to slide a little bit.
And they're starting to, yeah.
The Warriors are. You're always going to have that feeling about the Warriors until Steph Curry retires.
Just like the Heat. Remember the Heat? We're so scared of the Heat.
Last year, so irrational. I was like 7-game series.
Right. I mean, the Heat to an extent, but the Heat just didn't have enough talent. But the Warriors, they just figure it out. And Curry, on any given night, he's just a killer, right? So the Warriors are going to have that effect on you. Then you've got the usual suspect, the Thunder. My Suns are sliding a bit because they've got some big injuries going on right now. But
your Suns?
Well, I picked them.
I picked them for the finals.
I picked them to play the Celtics in the finals. Yeah, I did.
Huh.
Which I still feel good about if they can get, healthy. I mean, they were firing on all cylinders.
The guys are supposed to come back this week.
Neil Booker and Durant. I mean, find me a more lethal, offensive trio in the NBA. They got to stay on the court though. If they can't, then it's obviously not going to happen. But the West, that's a whole nother story. There's a lot going on out there. Grizzlies are somehow in the 6th seed right now with what they've been going through. But the Clippers come to town tomorrow. Another West team that's, had its fair share of up and downs over the years.
Yeah, that could be trouble.
Are we talking trap game, Bobby? Little Thanksgiving trap game, pregame?
Yeah, no Horford. I mean, they didn't play Kata tonight, and that's obviously going sideways a little bit. Tillman was okay, but fouled 4 times.
I thought Tillman did
not
what
much
he
of a
needed
threat.
to do.
Yeah,
he did what he needed
not
to
much
do.
of a threat offensively. Luke's hurt, right? So is he ready to go tomorrow? This one's tough against Zubac, who's rolling, and you got some guys who can get inside and work the ball inside out through Harden, and Powell's shooting like 50% from 3 to start this year. So this could be a little bit of a trap game. They have those wing defenders too, Jones and Amir Coffey and some other guys who can stay in front of Tatum and Brown. And they're really good, Noah. Like, I've watched them a decent amount to start this year because they're usually on late. They are well coached, defensively sound. I think they're 3rd or 4th in defense. The offense is a little trick or treat, and Harden's like 38% from the field, but he can move the ball. They got a lot of size. Zubac, I mean, the way the Celtics are getting beat on the boards right now, he could have 20 rebounds tomorrow too. So it is a little bit of a trap game in my mind, even with no Kawhi in there. And this team's played the Celtics tough over the last couple of years.
Yeah, this is a fun Clippers team. I like what they've done. I like what Norman Powell's done with his opportunity. It's so rare that you see a guy, 29, 30, late career, have a breakout season like this. And he talked before the season that that Paul George quote that it's addition by subtraction, and he's backing it up. So I'm looking forward to them being here. I'm just looking forward to more Western Conference teams because we've just been hearing so much about how weak the East is. And so you can only disprove the fact that you're only winning because you're in the East until you play the West. So glad that we get some Western Conference opponents here. Obviously, they're going to travel out West later on this season, and we'll get a bigger sample size. But the Clippers have been one of the surprise teams, I think, that have just maybe somewhat outmatched expectations.
Yeah, and I had the East when I wrote my column over the weekend for BSJ at 22-41 against the West this year.
That's crazy. They got to refigure some things out.
Noah's calling for a reconfiguration of the whole league. She wants to move like teams out West to make them travel.
That's okay. I can deal with that rumor. The ones I can deal with, the last show I jumped on, everybody was saying how much I hated Tatum, and I'm still getting those comments on my tweets. Like, why do you hate Tatum so much?
That was crazy. Yeah, why do you hate?
I don't even know what that's referring to. I literally have no clue. But the reconfiguration, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
I do think they need to figure it out because this is a sustained difference for many years now. It's not just this year. This is like a long-term issue. So they do need to figure out why the West is consistently so much more competitive.
Might be weather. Maybe it's weather. I don't know. It could be something, but it doesn't help when like the team, like for example, Philly, when your best player doesn't want to play or can't play or
Yeah.
they're not helping themselves out over on this side of the country. But what is interesting, and we're gonna wrap it up here, but real quick, Lakers are kind of fun. Lakers are kind of fun right now. And when the Lakers are fun, the league is fun. You want as much as we hate the Lakers, there's a part of us that wants them to be good so that it's fun to beat them. It's not fun to beat a team that
They're not
stinks.
gonna be.
They're not gonna be what?
They're not gonna be good.
Well, the Lakers, they're fighting. What do you mean they're not going to be good? They LeBron, AD, they've got a little bit of life to them right now, Bobby.
I'll agree with that, but
whatever. They're going to make it.
I give them zero chance to make the finals.
I'm not saying they're going to make the finals, at least not at this point. But they might. Still
they could play some good games.
Be a fun team to match up against at least. But yeah, I mean, as far as finals goes, there's only a few teams right now that you even consider. But we're going to wrap it. We got a game tomorrow night against the Clippers. We talked about them. Bobby and Noah, are you guys going to be there tomorrow night?
As always.
Sir.
Okay.
I love that the court hasn't been flipped yet, so we get to actually
it's been such a nice, quiet show. It's been very peaceful and soothing. John would have loved this show if he was on.
I know.
Nick perform. What was Nick's? What grade you giving Nick?
Was solid. Nick was good. We didn't have any couple F-bombs from Nick, but overall it was a pretty tame, under control performance from him. He could tell he watched the game, so he was able to speak on it a little bit. We talked about Ray Allen right before you jumped on, Bob. So we got a little bit of Celtics lore out of the way to at bay a little bit. So overall, I gotta say he did a great job. Nick's at home. He's back in PA, as he likes to say, Pennsylvania. So his mom probably is cooking him a nice meal tonight. But appreciate you guys jumping on with us. We will be back tomorrow against the Clippers, and then it's Thanksgiving. So we're going to probably hold off. We'll hold off on some Thanksgiving takes until tomorrow when John's on the show. I'm a TBD for tomorrow night's show. I'm going to try to jump on if I can, at least for the end of it, to get my Thanksgiving takes. Don't think I'm going to see much of the game, but I'm going to try to jump on. Noah, I don't even know what I'm actually really excited about what your Thanksgiving takes are going to be. I can only imagine. I don't want to even ask you right now. We're going to find out tomorrow. I'm very interested.
And what I'm eating?
I want to know the side. We're going to do so anyone watching right now, come back tomorrow night. Okay. We always do a good Thanksgiving show. We talk about, top pies you got to have at the table, best sides, worst sides, turkey, whether or not there should be gravy, dark meat, white meat, all the fixins will be discussed tomorrow night, Noah. And I don't even know where you're at.
You're going to have to keep it to desserts.
Why?
Well, she's probably not going to talk about the turkey aspect. I understand she won't talk about that. Maybe like a tofurkey.
I'm still going to have a Thanksgiving dinner. It's just not going to be the same as yours.
Maybe a tofu. Exactly. This is why we need Noah's perspective.
I'm interested to hear what the go-to is. Yeah.
It's going to be a whole new world. Everyone's going to have to tune in. Tofurkey might be on the plate. Maybe not. Maybe. Don't tell us. Don't tell us. We'll figure it out. But shout out Bill. Shout out Prize Picks. Shout out Game Time. Shout out Bobby. Shout out Noah. Be on the lookout for what they have coming from the game tonight. They're gonna go. They're gonna do a little post game hit that'll be up on CLNS. One last shout out before we go. I haven't done this enough, and I have to. CLNS shop.clnsmedia.com. Right now, you can use the code Banner19 for 20% off. I shouldn't say this, but I will. We're gonna have an even better deal on Black Friday, or leading up to Black Friday. So maybe tomorrow night the code might change and it might be better. But you should go to the website now, figure out what you want to buy, so that when we unleash the new code, you'll be able to get it before they all sell out, because I think this new discount might get people jumping a little bit. So anyways, shop.clnsmedia.com. There's some good shirts on there, some CLNS Media merch. We have a couple new items that are going to be jumping on there soon. We got to get the new logo tee up there with Noah's face on it so that people might buy it. I think that's next. That's definitely coming up very, very soon. Sorry, Joe Sway, but you might be off the logo. Noah's on, Joe Sway's out. If you have an OG, or if you want the OG one, now's the time to buy it.
Why not both? Put them both
They're
on.
limited. Well, they're going to be limited. The OG logo is going to be very limited. Put it this way, we aren't going to make more of them. So if you want one, now's the time to get it. The hot ones are going to be when we replace it. Noah's going to be on there. We're going to get some new logos. Anyways, that's it for us, guys. Thank you guys so much. Jackson, I hope you're paying attention. If you are, hit us with the outro. Wait, Amit's got an outro for us, I think.
No, he doesn't.
He said he was going to work on an outro.
He had a phenomenal game.
Phenomenal game.
Forfeit's out. I think it's an auction. That did not sound like a chair.
It was a freaking chair. It does sound like a chair.